Our theme verse, we already mentioned. This is the version, say no to wrong, learn to do good, work for justice. When did you first learn about good and bad? When did you first hear about justice? I mean the practical, everyday concept of justice. For most of us, if we really go back far enough, the root meaning of justice, we go back to our very first toddler years. And we learned very much from our mother that we could not always use power and control all the resources. In other words, share your toys. Remember that? Share your toys. Just because you were bigger or quicker or stronger or you were positioned better, you had more crayons or more Legos on your side of the room, didn't mean that you didn't have to share with your siblings or your neighbors or the other people in the nursery church room. I don't know about you, but for me it was a tough lesson. If it was my toy, why should I share it? It was a lesson that I had to have reinforced over and over and over again. And as I grew in life, the toys just got bigger, right? And more important. Why would I share them? But it was Mother that taught me the importance of right and wrong, of justice and injustice. And the reality is, if we want to be honest, women have really always been at the forefront of the topic or the issue of justice. Sometimes probably because they had to, for themselves and for the justice that was denied oftentimes to women. Things like the right to vote or the right for equal wages, things like that. But American Baptist women have always been very prominent, too, in the establishment of justice. Very early on in the history of American Baptists, the American Baptist women formed societies, the Women's American Baptist Home Mission Society, to reach out to areas in our country that really struggled with injustice to people who were neglected, people who were marginalized. And today I want to just take a short, brief moment to tell you about a couple of those ladies in history. The first lady is named Isabel Crawford. And if you want to read more about her, her journal is available. She ministered to the Kiowa people in Oklahoma on the Oklahoma reservation. Her journal is entitled A Woman Missionary. A Woman Missionary in Indian Territory. It was written in 1896. Isabel was actually born in Canada. Her father was a minister. He was also a seminary professor. And she very early on felt a call to be a missionary. She attended the Baptist Missionary Training School in Chicago, which was a famous school established by the American Baptist women for the training specifically of women missionaries. She graduated in 1893, so you can think about the time period it was. She was sent and commissioned by the Women's American Baptist Home Mission Society to go to work among the Kiowa on the Oklahoma reservation. It not only involved Kiowa, but on that reservation were Comanche and Apache Native Americans. But she worked specifically with the Kiowa. This was still when Oklahoma was a territory. So if you think about it, it was very much on the frontier. And she went into areas where even white men would not go alone. And she was a single young white woman. She settled in the area of the reservation called Saddle Mountain. She had limited food. She lived in the tent right along with the Native American Kiowa. She spent most of her days cleaning, washing, doing very much servant-type activities, baking bread, carrying firewood, singing hymns, always sharing the gospel, telling Bible stories, teaching the women of the tribes how to sew, how to make quilts. And over the years, they worked to sell their quilts to build a Baptist church. She went and talked with the government and received 160 acres of territory, of land, to build her church. And within 7 years, in 1903, Isabel Crawford and the Native Americans chartered the Baptist church there, Saddle Mountain Baptist Church. And at their very first worship service on Easter, they had 64 charter members, and she was the only non-Native American. So 63, in 7 years, she had 63 members of this new church. When she finally died in 1961, the Kiowa, she went back north to Canada, the Kiowa chief leaders came and sent for her body, and she was buried in the Saddle Mountain Indian Baptist Church Cemetery. And they had put on her tombstone these words, "I dwell among mine own people." A young white woman who dedicated her life to teaching and helping the Native Americans learn basic skills and reading and Bible. The second lady I want to share with you is a lady named Johanna P. Moore. If you notice in your call to worship, she was mentioned there. She was born in 1832, and it was in 1851 that she attended a Baptist revival service, and she became a Baptist. She was convinced that the Baptist was the right way to do things. She attended also the Baptist Missionary Training School in Chicago. In fact, she was in the first graduating class there. She, too, was appointed by the Women's American Baptist Society, and she was appointed to the South. She was, in fact, their first appointment to the South as a missionary. But the reality is, even after they appointed her, they had no money to pay her. Sounds like typical American Baptists, right? And so she had to receive her money from her own Sunday school class. She was a member of the First Baptist Church of Belvedere, Illinois, and they gave her $4 a month stipend to go work down south. That church is still active today as an American Baptist church. In fact, it was one of the churches in my area when I served there in Illinois. And the pastor, Rex Rogers, who's been there for over 20 years, the church very much still fulfills its calling to be a church of mission and justice, both locally in their community and globally. In fact, one of the things that they do is that they sponsor people and help them find jobs, literally help them work and find jobs through the community. Anyway, Joanna arrived in 1863 on island number 10 in the middle of the Mississippi, down towards New Orleans. Do you know what was going on in 1863? The Civil War, exactly. So her first assignment was to minister in the camps, the Union camps, where the freed slaves had come. They had no jobs, no food, no homes or anything, and they poured into camps all over the South set up by the Union soldiers. And she worked with over 1,000 black women and children, helping to find them clothing and food, constantly writing letters back north and asking people to send food and clothing. She worked for over 40 years throughout the South. She traveled extensively as an evangelist, setting up fireside schools. She set up over 3,000 schools that would concentrate on the Bible lessons that she prepared and the families learning together as a family. She worked really on literacy, teaching the children and the adult women who had never had the opportunity to read or write, teaching them how to read and write, and also Bible stories. She was called the Swamp Angel of the South because of her work. There's one of the schools that she's the one right in the middle in the back there, one of the schools with the women. And she has also a book with her journals in it, and it's called In Christ's Stead. So it's a book that you might want to pick up to read. You know, the psalm that we read this morning, verse 4 is really the part that stands out to me. It says, "The king is mighty. He loves justice." He loves justice. You know, we talk a lot about justice, and we seek to understand what that means. And we talk about God is love, and God is grace, and God is mercy, and all of these wonderful attributes of God. But right here, it tells us He loves justice. He has established equity. In other words, justice is at the very core of who God is. I want to share one more story with you, and this was in the video today. This is Dr. Alicia Moore, or Alice Malone, and she is currently an American Baptist woman who is the director of Bondage Breakers Incorporated. It's a group in Akron, Ohio, that works with children of incarcerated parents and also works with the prisoners themselves. They seek to break the spiritual and economic bondage of the people who are caught in the cycle of incarceration. She works with the local juvenile detention center. She also provides opportunities for the children to come to camp. So the children have at least one parent who is incarcerated. They come to camp and they learn sometimes for the very first time that they are unique, that they are special, that they are valuable, that someone loves them. You heard her say in the video, I can't save them. I can't make a difference, but Jesus can make a difference. And that's who makes a difference. Not only do they do fun things like some of these kids have never even seen a horse before, but they do things like that. But they also teach them life skills. They teach them things like basic reading skills and math skills, and they have after-school programs to tutor and help them get out of that cycle of poverty and injustice. So what I want to share with you today is that your gifts to the America for Christ offering. I know that sometimes on that side, it sounds like we're always asking for money. And we are, because that's how mission happens. That's how justice and God's love is spread. And so the America for Christ offering, although you hear it every year, year after year after year, is one of the most critical ways that we can reach out through people all across the United States. Whether it's through prison ministries, and you saw about a dozen of them listed there in the video, or whether it's through Bethel Neighborhood Center, places where children of immigrant families come and learn basic skills, or perhaps it's through, we even have chaplaincies that work with racetracks, behind-the-scene people at racetracks who need help reaching and learning about God. Breaking the cycle of injustice is what America for Christ is about. And I hope as you consider this season, again, what you will give to the America for Christ offering, you will do so with the knowledge that we can make a difference. We can, like these men and women who have gone before us as American Baptists, make a difference. Let's bow for a word of prayer.